briefly, and then Kim can give you the deeper details. But in essence, what we're going back to is source-based, which has been denied to this planet a long, long time. And so source recognizes intent. And so it is a source-based system, you know. And so if you're, what's happening all over the world now, people are seeing what I warned would happen 4 or 5 years ago. The masks of illusion have fallen. And people would expose themselves and each other, and everyone's seeing it now. And that's why it's in chaos, because people don't know how to act, because they've lived this fake illusion life for too long, you know. But that's how essentially we're going back to a source-based connection, one-on-one with the one. And that's the intent and the issue behind the quantum system.
Kim, do you want to jump in on that?
Okay, where to start? How does it work? Well, in the world, in our world that we live in right now, you have the etheric world, and then you have the material world. And one definitely affects the other. So in other words, you have frequencies, light, sound, you have source light, right? Which fractalates and becomes the other colors of light that you see. And then you have the material world, so the world in which money flows and whatnot, right?
Okay.
So originally, when I got this system, or started figuring out how to use it, it had a couple of subsectors that have been closed down since early 2016. Matter of fact, February of 2016. And one of them was let's say an amplified version of MK Ultra, where it would actually implant thoughts into your head, right? It would communicate with people through brainwave frequency, because the system was designed originally to, take life force energy. Harvest, that's right. It was designed to harvest your energy. So if you think about it, right, in conjunction with the ANNA system, which was based out of Belgium, and the XN system, which is also based out of Belgium, it was designed to have ownership over you, or you are an employee of the system, right? You go to work, you pay your taxes, you pay taxes on your house, by the time it's all said and done, really about 20% of your income is actually yours. Yeah. So the theory behind it, in order to harvest energy, right, which all humans produce, you all produce source-based energy, which exists, that is your life force energy, you have to structure the financial system both on the front and the back to absorb that energy, to basically draw that energy out of every human on the planet. So if you picture to yourself the Ring of Solomon or the Star of David, it's basically one triangle pointed up, one triangle pointed down. The triangle pointed up in the back would be the back system, or the quantum system, which, by the way, is not new. It was not created by the Earth Alliance. It was not created by any of these people. And it is not something that is going to be launched like everybody says on the internet. That is not what this is. It has been in existence on this planet for a very, very, very long time. And it hasn't been changing until about 2016 is when the changes started to be made. Now, on the front side of the banking system, you would have the downward pointed triangle. 9, which is your source energy, right? If you go back to what you know about Tesla, if you don't, look it up. The downward pointed triangle was controlled by what you call the black screen, basically ultimate darkness. Remember, Solomon's treasures were guarded by the demons, right? No. And then the upward pointed triangle also has a control and command, which is the white screen. And one was basically covering the other. Now that's all changed, but the back system runs on frequency, light, and sound. It has a perpetual energy source, which is source-based now, and it doesn't need your energy anymore to run. It generates its own.
Yep. So that ends the harvesting.
So has everybody's intent been mapped on the planet?
It does have the capacity to do that. It has a very large mapping system, which has been mapping virtually every human in existence until 2016. So it does have the capacity to do that. So knowing that it's source-based, right? You've heard people talk about that. How do you say it? The Akashic records or something like that?
Akashic, yeah.
Akashic, yeah.
Akashic records. Well, all of that is contained in every particle of light that exists within yourself and within the planet and within Source itself.
Okay.
So that being said, it's almost like picture it almost like a giant network computer for the multiverse. So if you're at Source itself, and then one small piece comes off, then that would be your network computer on a giant network. But it's kind of like surfing the internet. You know, you're connecting to the Wi-Fi, and then you're surfing the internet, right? Well, the internet is a boundless source of information, probably half of it right and half of it wrong, or maybe even more than half of it wrong, but it's there. And you have to know what you're looking for, otherwise you'll just sit there in infamy, right, asking questions, secrets of the universe, right? And Source kind of works the same way. So if you're connected to that network, you can connect to other people who are also on the internet, right?
Okay, so
Source works the same way. So that's how telepathic communications work. That's how brain waves and frequency works. We as humans do it all day long, every day. You just don't realize it. You know, if you walk into a room, particularly sensitive people will say this energy is bad, or this person is dangerous to me. Or as a mother, you know when your child is in danger, even though they might be 100 miles away from you. You have an innate, what you would call a sixth sense. But that is exactly what it is you're doing in the technical sense. You're connecting through Source to the other party.
That's why they're introducing the smartphones technology, because the source energy is now connecting with people globally, and they're giving you machines so you don't enhance your telepathic communication ability.
Okay. So how does that work with the day-to-day running of the banking system? Is the quantum system linked to the banking system? Because people who are on a day-to-day basis, when you're dealing with THI members, and it's a relevant question who people don't understand the advanced side of the quantum side. They're thinking of it on a level of, we have a current banking system, and if and when the funds came out, is it linked to that, or how does that work?
Well, it is to an extent. Okay, so right now that feature is turned off, but can be turned on, and it can be turned on specifically to a specific party. It doesn't necessarily have to be everybody in the world all the time, but it can, let's say, run the most comprehensive intelligence report you've ever seen in your life. And no matter what anybody tells you or what they say on the telephone, you can actually tell what it is they're really thinking.
Okay. And would you be concerned that if that was switched on, again, this is why yourself and Thomas are trying to get these people on board, because you don't want to, again, you've had this experience already where you've released funds and they've been taken and you've had to go and take them back again. And you don't want to go through the whole process again.
Well, every single time, okay, so if money is energy, right? Both given and taken. Money was originally created to give pretty papers to the cabal, because as they were the former trustees. So he was actually taking control over rare earth minerals and elements unknown to humankind and all kinds of things from these people, at the same time giving them pretty papers in return. Now, pretty papers it really doesn't mean anything, right? The only thing it means to you is you can take that pretty paper to its store and you can buy yourself some groceries, or you can pay your rent, or you can exist, or buy something for your family, right?
Okay.
Like you said, Thomas said, basic needs. And most people don't even have basic needs. Only a small portion of people have basic needs. And the ones that are hoarding it, or were hoarding it, were just rotating the funds through all their corporations through the 1%.
Yeah. Which is why they're the few corporations that keep going. This is what I mentioned earlier. You know, that figure of 44% is fake, because without that cheating of funds that were stolen out of the trust and swirling it round, all those corporations would have collapsed, because that's the way it was designed. The corporations were just there as like a front shop for the former trustee to collect all the assets, all the world assets, the real assets, and pieces of paper are not assets. It has no intrinsic value unless the government tells you it is. You know, Trump could come out tomorrow and says, we're going to legalize monopoly money, which is essentially what the dollar is. It's monopoly money. It's a piece of paper. It has no value. So he gave them pieces of paper to go and buy up all kinds of assets and pieces of land and mansions and all the other stuff, and corporate giants.
All funneled through their banks.
All funneled through their banks. And then he collected all the assets, the real assets.
And then you put your money back into their custody every time you put $1 into a bank account.
Yeah.
So the way that it's structured now, okay, and actually most recently as of Thursday, because we're constantly making changes. So every single time we send out $1, right, for $100 million or $10 million, and it gets stopped at some point, we now have identified that point and eradicate that point until they run out of points.
That's a massive amount of work and a massive task to do.
You're telling us.
We know.
We know.
It's like whack-a-mole, isn't it? It really is like whack-a-mole. You have to.
But eventually, every time they fail, it takes them an awful lot of energy to come up with a new way. And in essence, you know, we've done the work. And now we can sit back. This is why I said last year we can sit back a bit, because we're ready, but they're not. And what all they're doing now is defensive modes of blocking, when for thousands of years they've been attacking us and just taking everything. Now they can't do that. And all they're doing is spending vast amounts of resources on media to tell lies, spin things, and harvest each other's companies and block the trust. It's a massive fall.